Hello and welcome back, everyone. Happy Thanksgiving, but more importantly, Happy Thursday. And of course, they schedule Thanksgiving on a Happy Thursday every year. It is, of course, no coincidence. They definitely do go out of their way to make sure that it falls on a Happy Thursday. Today, we are going to be doing one of the less reading-heavy, one of the more eye-heavy dev diaries, which is going to be the art dev diary for the upcoming Iberian Twilight. I do believe it drops on December 11th. You should be shouting loudly and proudly the devs at the start and the end of every dev diary. But instead they're shouting the disclaimers, stuff is subject to change, which is more professional, but less pluggy. Anyways, got two phones. So let's start and get into it. So introduction, of course. Happy Thursday. This, of course, is a Happy Thursday with the happy at the beginning, which is... Of course, Happy Thursday is a proper holiday, like Thanksgiving, Happy Thursday, and it should be capitalized. When you put it at the beginning of the sentence, you don't show your capitalization solidarity, but it's still correct, so let's continue on. And welcome to the art diary of Iberian Twilight. You're a dev too. Come on. Okay, dev diaries are supposed to be good or short. This will... Are they, though? This will be a short dev diary. Oh, I guess good or short. Okay, I see what you're saying. I'm picking up what you're putting down. They've been long of late. Long have been the dev diaries of late. This will be a short dev diary, despite an image being worth 1,000 words, so it's actually a long dev diary. Considering the recent deluge of content, that's a nice word, deluge, from the designers, there is no way for an art director to compete anyways, and perhaps it's for the best. Surely you have enough discourse by now. Look at this, we're using discourse and deluge, and so, come on. This guy's underplaying his hand here, and then he's gonna be like, bam, here's the art, slap it on the table, as one does. And so we will be moving swiftly on to the content. As usual, we will examine the art components in an orderly fashion, and for ease of browsing, we will divide these components into three-dimensional art, being environmental art, e.g. things on the map and table. We do love our table components. Character art, e.g. Historical and or fictitious and their garments. Is this even properly... Shouldn't this be IE? No, I guess it's EG. Anyways, following by two-dimensional arts, which is to say the user interface, reskin, and its various components in the actual map itself, and the event images, some of which have already been previously showcased in dev diaries. Actually, you know what? It's IE... if this is all that he's showing, and it's EG if it's just a component of what he's showing. I guess we'll figure out later. And by figure out later, I mean we'll start reading through the dev diary, we'll forget about this aside and never come back to it. Okay, a note on environmental art. Before we begin looking at the content, I would like to address something that's been previously mentioned by us on the forums, which is that for Iberian Twilight, we decided to make a change from the usual content that we have included in immersion packs in the past. Instead of retexturing rural and urban buildings, we've decided to make several buildable projects tied to journal entries and gameplay. This sounds fun. The main reason for this is that when we set out to investigate building style, we gathered a lot of references and tried out different approaches, but we did not arrive at a satisfying result that would make buildings really stand out compared to any previous examples. So the Europeans look like Europeans, and we wanted them to look like something else, but they, alas, looked like Europeans. Terrible. So we sat down and looked at European buildings, that is. Okay. So we sat down and thought about alternatives. If we wouldn't do a building style set justice, we wanted to go with something new, or something that has a connection to gameplay which players can interact with. I never zoom in, so honestly, I under-experience buildings. We have spent just as much time as effort, if not more, on this content than we would have setting up new farmhouses, and we hope that you can see our passion shine through in those just as much as with a building style. The content, then. There are 5 discrete architectural projects to build, all with corresponding set of journal entries and events. We do love... So one of my favorite things, just from a pure theme perspective, and it's just completely useless for gameplay, is I love the skyscraper and then the Zeppelin. And we don't zoom in on this enough. And you build the skyscraper, you turn on the Zeppelin option, and if there's someone else has a skyscraper with Zeppelins, then a Zeppelin will appear and it'll start sailing towards their thing. That is an example of a building. We live in a society. The projects cover a few different parts of the Iberian sphere of influence, and they are in no particular order of importance. The restoration of the I don't want to say this word because I know if I mispronounce it, it means something else, right? Convent into the palace, Portugal, the construction of the Gran Teatro de la Habana, Cuba, and the construction of Atocha train station, Madrid, if unlucky, repeated the restoration of the nth Manila Cathedral, Philippines, and finally Spain's greatest architectural cliffhanger, the cathedral to end all cathedrals, the cathedral that was promised. Cthulhu. The final boss of Iberian architecture, the Sagrada Familia, Spain. Finally, you may wish you may finish what no man has yet to finish. That sounds ominous. The project was yet undone, not yet finished. As these projects are tied to journal entries, we are joined together by content designer Lufthansa, who will walk us through the associated gameplay content. I must admit, the first time I saw Lufthansa, I thought that this was some sort of play on words with his real name and Luftwaffe, but now I'm becoming more increasingly convinced that his name is actually Lufthansa. We begin because everyone's Generalissimo and attaching titles to their name that relates to warfare, and then we have Lufthansa, but maybe he is just Lufthansa. We begin with the restoration of this palace. So the convent on a hill in the Sintra Mountains, as it stood before the restoration and extension in 42 by a gentleman on orders from Prince Ferdinand and B. For space reasons, the convent has been migrated W and W from its original geographic position. We're trying to rectify this before launch, but Lisbon appears to take up more space than expected. It is not a small city, especially when you build up a real big style. So we're looking at this structure on the hill, I think, and is that devastation? My guy, take care of your people. Okay, and so we have some special properties vis-a-vis others. So we see Glorious Eden, we have research mechanical tools, we need some things, and then we can start construction. We get a little bit of approval for the Intelligentsia while building it, the current requirements, and starting event for the Glorious Eden journal entry. Note that some triggers are still subject to change. There we go. Let's go. You're supposed to put it at the beginning, but we do have, of course, the subject to change disclaimer. You put it at the beginning, that way if someone skims over this, you still hit them with the disclaimer. Because if they skim over this is easy to skim over, then what has your disclaimer done but added more ink to the page? And so, okay, we will have, it will give prestige and legitimacy from including head of state. That's not an inconsequential... That's a modifier. I mean, for the longest time, one of the best states in the game has been the best state because it gives 20 legitimacy and however much authority, which is the Forbidden Palace. But 5 legitimacy from including the headed state and government. I mean, okay. Kurt, times is changing. Non-prestige related building effects can be disabled by toggling the monument effects game rule, of course, for people who don't like fun. Next up, the finished palace of sorts, with its eclectic mix of Neo-Gothic, Neo-Manueline, Neo-Islamic, and Neo-Renaissance. My brain auto-completed this as Neo-Masculine, and I was very... discombobulated by the notion of an architectural style named neo-masculine, but then I opened my eyes again. Surely, that's enough Neo. That's true. Shout out to Keanu Reeves, everyone's favorite. Also a reminder that the palace will most likely migrate south or southwest for the release for a more appropriate location. Okay, so we do see the completed building up on the hill there, and still a little bit of devastation. What's going on, man? What's going on? We can help you. Moving swiftly east towards the Gran Teatro de la Habana, where we are going to be... I don't know which one of these nice looking structures this is, whether it's this one, or this one. So I guess we'll continue. Perhaps the most straightforward of the building projects, a project of national pride for the new nation. So I'm guessing it's this one? I don't know. Built on the site of the Teatro Tacon, famed for its acoustics, the old building can clearly be discerned from above. Not like this. Jesus. I got shaded preeminently for not knowing what... clearly discerned. For people with a brain who know all the buildings, you can clearly tell which building is which. Jesus. The shade is time capsuled and thrown at me. Encased within the new structure. Encased within the new structure. Encased within the new structure? I still don't know. Is it this one? I don't know which one this is. Okay, an artist's footnote. It is strange and somehow comforting to be reminded that there still remain cities on Earth that have not yet been fully modeled in game. It is somehow comforting? Yeah, because if they're all modeled in game, then you need that for a job, right? Anyways, designer's footnote. Similarly, trying to dig up the building plans for specific buildings has also proved troublesome. You don't say. But we see the Grand Teatro. Okay, so it's this one right here. So let's see if we can find that on the... Is it this one or this one? It's one... Oh my god. My eyes. Please. It looks like there's a fountain in the middle. So it's this one up here. Okay. Okay. And does it give modifiers? It gives prestige and fine art. Okay, that's cool. I don't know off the top of my head how much more efficient that is in paper than the base one. Base fine art production. I think it's a lot better, right? I guess it depends. 200 academics to produce 5 fine art from 100 paper. I think, is fine art... Oh, I forget the base price of fine art, so I can't really tell. The base price of paper is like either 30 or 40. I forget that too, so I guess we can't really analyze the PM. I assume that's better than the normal Arts Academy. But moving back to Spain for the Atocha train station of Madrid. Classic Victorian-era project, wrought iron, infrastructure, railways, what's not to love? Yeah, basically. We're all about the trains here. So, shout out to trains. The finished railway station at the place. A disciple of the Eiffel Fellow. So this looks to be the train station. And we can travel east to the Cathedral of Manila. So no special building for the train station. We have the Cathedral of Manila. Manila Cathedral at Game Start. Technically, this would be the 5th cathedral, but who's counting? Apparently you are. A building project that keeps on giving. As I write this, the 8th iteration of the minor Basilica and Metropolitan Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception stands proudly within the intramuros of Manila. However, fire, war, and above all earthquakes have torn this building down over and over, and yet we persist, and we rebuild. Maybe we should build it out of something different. And now the sacred labor falls on you. Earthquakes have been added to the harvest conditions, yea, and they will strike when you least expect it, bringing down the cathedral. Perfect. That's funny. We must quickly rebuild the cathedral. Speedrun, first one to rebuild the cathedral 8 times wins. It's the most annoying speedrun ever because it's entirely RNG. Welcome to the IRL simulator, because earthquakes are also RNG. Okay, so we do have a rebuilding the cathedral. Construction time again. Who knows how many times that church may need to be rebuilt and how many times is too many. This is like, almost like an Easter egg of a joke of a journal entry, but okay. The cathedral, good as new, but for how long? Nobody knows. Roll the dice and see the fate of the cathedral. Now back to Spain for the main event. The Sagrada Familia. The construction of the Sagrada Familia is split into 3 stages, and perhaps unlike the real thing, we had a blast making this. Although it was not without struggle. The cursed blessed structure. There's a word for this, okay? There's a word for this. You don't need to say cursed blessed. You can say blurst. That is what. There's a word for this. It's blurst. You gotta open up a dictionary. Update your vocabulary. Blurst is the technical term. The blurst structure seems intent on not wanting to be built. Even as a 3D model, we had to dig through an inordinate amount of references, from early photos to the original building site to the first proposals and sketches of Gaudi himself. Furthermore, the structure itself tends to defy the eye from any angle, creating an instant migraines for anyone who tries to decipher its shape. Texturing the structure is another Sisyphus task. Isn't it Sisyphusian? I went to school for this to properly know, but maybe the real Sisyphusian task is to rename the conjugation of Sisyphusian as an adjective every time we use it, because English is constantly changing and we can never correctly say the right words for the right way in the right way because it's always changing, and it's a task that will never be finished, and yet we keep on going at it over and over and over again, and it's a Sisyphus task. Sisyphusian. Okay, the entire facade is covered in minute detail and color, and the less I talk about it, textile density, the better. Yeah, I don't know what textile density is, so all words will be lost on me, much like Sisyphusian. Loses all progress every time. Oh, poor Sisyphus. Loses progress every single time. Because it would involve swear words. True. In any case, we hope you enjoy... In any case, we hope you enjoy this fucking building as much as we did. Okay. Continuing on, modernist architecture, okay, fair enough. Unlike the previous mentioned monuments of this dev diary, the Sagrada Familia Basilica and our cathedral, as our Polish localization team has pointed out, is constructed in 3 stages. Each stage comes with its own little event and reward, detailing the evolution of the basilica over time. Combined with the increased build time per stage, this means that finishing the Sagrada Familia within a reasonable time is no laughing matter. But isn't this all just one giant semi-joke? I mean, you feel jovial. It is in fact a laughing matter, is it not? Okay, industrialists are sharp, right? That's true. His legacy will live on, also true. 2 of the associated events with the stage-based construction of the Sagrada Familia. There's 3 stages, but we only show you 2. Womp womp. Okay, so, which one is that? Are we looking at this one, I think, here? Is the building we are looking at. Gaudi lays the foundations. Please ignore signs of unrest. Nope, we already noticed them from before. You mismanaged your country for this dev diary. It seems near impossible to get the local population to calm down, even for one screenshot. Does it? Does it? Okay. Does it? Okay, so here is the more progressed building with, hey, look, a little bit less unrest, but you didn't stop us from noticing before. Despite the death of the architect, the basilica takes shape. He provided the mortar. And then we have also here the more complete version of the building. Bonus project, our favorite. Some of you may recall after our last immersion pack, National Awakening, and its focus on the Balkans, there were some concerns over the lack of Austrian content. This is hilarious. Some concerns over the lack of Austrian... What is they actually concerns over the lack of Austrian content? I feel like this is supposed to be a joke, but now he's got me twisted. Because there was a ton of Austria content. Not even, and I quote, a monument like Hofburg Kaiser Forum, to which I replied, we hear you. Okay, maybe lack of content as far as buildings go. And so we've added the Kaiser Forum to the Austrian Jewel Empire series. So for our Odors of National Awakening, we present the Kaiser Forum, comes in regular and Habsburg flavor, so either with a normal sized chin or a very large chin, are the 2 versions of the building that you can have. But that's not what we wanted. No, we don't want AI chat. Not like this. Not what we want. Like the Sagrada Familia, the Kaiser Forum is constructed in 2 stages, so it is entirely possible for the only parts of the structure to be completed as occurred history. Womp womp. Surely to construct a chin of that size, one would need multiple stages. The completed forum in the historically correct sandstone finish, but who's to say we wouldn't have painted the entire thing in Schönbrunner Gelb? It's your Kaiser Forum, your choice. Your Kaiser Forum, your choice. That's true. Table assets, our favorite. 4 new table assets have been added to the game, along with a beautiful slice of marbled olive wood for your tabletop and DLC coin added to your collection. Each new item was inspired by a country central to Iberian Twilight, and because we have been on a bit of a food roll with the recent releases, we are proud to say that if you own National Awakening as well, you should now be able to get the only food, be able to put only food on the table. That's right, you get to bring the bacon. By bacon, we mean hamon, and by hamon, we mean actually this. We have tinned sardines representing Portugal, and a neatly sliced carabao mango from Manila. But where's the Iberia? And then we have the Carlos beret and rosary representing Spain. Could we not have had hamon on the table? Is it too much to ask? Probably. When I visited Spain for visiting the Tinto dev, what's it called? Dev team / studio. Studio is the word I was looking for. Words are hard. I think I ate like a kilo of ham a day. roughly speaking. For you Americans out there, that's 2.2 pounds, roughly speaking. And so we also do have a Cuban cigar representing, well, of course, Cuba. And for the DLC coin, we have depending on who you ask, an entirely illegal 1875 Carlist insurrectionary 5 centimos coin, which is going to be quite nice. Is that... We have... Wait, are they adding coins with every single... Have I not understood what's going on? Are they adding coins with every DLC? Is this Spheres of Influence with the Kraken? Brother. I'm gonna be so stressed if that's actually the case, because I haven't noticed that. Okay, character art. So moving on to the character art, embracing the most fancy hats, coats, and other clothing items. First of all, I would like to showcase the updated Carlist battle diorama soldiers. The Carlists have the high ground. We cannot lose now, surely. Oh, got some news for you. Or is it the Carlists or it's the Carlists? What about the Cardists? What happened to them? Okay, new outfits. We do have some rather dapper-looking gentlemen, including our new fancy coats. Very fancy coats. Sorry, apologies to those who upgraded from fancy coats to very fancy for not giving you the proper designation you deserve. We do have these guys looking very dapper. With some bling added, it looks pretty solid. It looks digital to me. Okay, but... yeah, these guys do look stylish. Next up is the obligatory Carlist beret. Some berets, like, in war, if they're not, like... Well, I get that it's not necessarily a warfare attire, but honestly, like, a red beret just seems like the stupidest thing to wear into war. This isn't shots fired at any specific nation or anything that wears red berets, because I honestly don't know off the top of my head, but, like, that makes the top of your head a really easy target to see if it's in red. Some fancy new Rayadillo uniforms for the chaps posted in the colonies, and more hats. A shako, I believe. You believe? Do we not know? You made these. Okay, but they look nice. So that's nice. Some more traditional Portuguese headgear, our favorite. Okay. And finally, a selection of famous or semi-famous, bang bang, shots fired, people that have received some custom DNA from us for your consideration. Can you please separate them into famous and semi-famous? I want to know who we are throwing shade at today. Please, for next step diary, show us which ones are famous and which ones are only semi-famous. But truth be told, as a person who is not that well cultured, I suppose, in Iberian culture, I don't recognize any of these men. So let's continue on. 2D art, leaving the world behind of three-dimensional objects. We start our tour of Flatland looking at... Leaving behind the world of three-dimensional objects. Is he trying to say the Earth is flat? Comment below. Let everyone around the globe know what you think about how flat the Earth is. For user interface, for the UI reskin, we looked at Spanish and Portuguese architecture and clothing in general. They are often very highly ornamental, detailed, and flamboyant, our favorite, especially some of the coats worn by the leaders. We also experimented with the style that is extremely hard to say for any non-Spanish speaker. Or ultra baroque, way easier. Okay, Alexandre Dumas. Alexandre Dumas, wasn't he French? You're showing us... Wasn't he? Why are you showing us a French cover in Iberian style? is there no one good to reference from France or from Spanish literature? Alexandre Dumas is French, right? Oh man, maybe he's not. Same early research on Ultra Baroque and Azuelo styles and our early expansion on the style. On one hand, we have a highly ornamental painted patterns with organic motifs, leaves, flowers, etc., of course, being our favorite, mostly that. As frames around the UI, since these are so extravagant, we decided on gold for the frames to give it a luxurious look, which was also a core pillar of the art style. Very gaudy to just cover everything in gold, yeah? As it is, but it actually does look nice here. On the loud car outside, of course, we incorporated some louder sounding colors of the famous tiled art of the region as background elements. We ended up using a blue and white to emulate the classic look of the Portuguese, and some stylized floral and vegetal patterns for the details. You know what, like, phonetically just, like, feels like the opposite of floral, and stylistically feels like the opposite of floral in terms of floral being, like, glamour and, like, light touch? Vegetal. Vegetal? It sounds venereal. Vegetal. Patterns for the details. Alright, so we do have some vegetal patterns in our art, unfortunately, but hopefully no venereal patterns in our life. Coming in, we do see a bit of some nice styling. Do like these a lot. I'm going to enjoy playing with this UI. Different UI elements like the notifications counter and pause frame. While the color blue has been used for the UI buttons in previous UI reskins, the shade here we use here is slightly richer and more saturated than a more muted blue of Voice of the People. It's lighter but more saturated, right? We felt that this combination of blue and white was the most visually appealing when put together for the rest of the UI. Is it really more saturated? It's more saturated but lighter, right? Or are we talking about this? Does it look more saturated? For making thumbnails, one of the things you do is you just, like, increase the saturation until you get to a point where you think the audience won't say, that's too much saturation. Just as right before that point, that's the amount of saturation you want. And this honestly doesn't seem like that much saturation, but okay, when you see it in our thumbnails, it'll be way more saturated. The snozberries taste even more like snozberries. Blue buttons with gold framing. Tense negotiation with the landowners. Is there any other kind? Alright. Are we clear? Alright, so paper map skin is also going to be a little bit of a thing. Looks like we got some art, but let's read the words first. If you recall the paper maps for National Awakening and Pivot of Empire, we experimented with vibrant colored illustrations for Iberian Twilight. We decided to scale back on the colors and illustrations over the oceanic parts of the map. Boo! Both Portugal and Spain were great naval empires prior to 1836. I understand. Now, we're going to need that for our boats, unlike, you know, France, which had a terrible navy, and India, which also had a terrible navy. Right, that's National Awakening is France, and then India's Pivot of Empire, yeah. Both Portugal and Spain were great naval empires. We're here to throw shade at France and India, and to further emphasize these countries having loud cars outside, we've drawn inspiration from nautical maps to the 17th and 19th century, except I think that was a motorcycle, to be fair. But okay, drawing inspiration from the nautical maps, we do see a little bit of art, yeah, and it is a little bit more muted. We do like the angler sea monster, though, and of course he's got a sheet because he's going to bed. He's sweepy. And like most maps of old, the boats and ships monsters are added as decorative elements. They exist beneath the seas, and they're just sleeping. Okay, we see the Mappa Mundi. Honestly, bring me the Baguette Centaur. We might run the Baguette Centaur instead of this paper map. Well, we do like this. We do like the sweepy sweet monster. Anglerfish. Shout out to male anglerfish. Parasites. They just latch on and they're just like. Actually, it's almost vulgar to describe the function of a male anglerfish, so we'll continue. Some of the old maps we researched also have illustrations on the bottom of the map featuring characters and environments. In previous paper maps, we often look at key elements, or key moments, rather, for those of you who can read, the country's history or general life of the people in the region. For Iberian Twilight, we wanted to tap into Spain and Portugal's glorious past as explorers and colonizers. Glorious past. The exploitation of indigenous people. Glorious past. Okay. Leading up to the 19th, glorious past. Giving you the smallpox, glorious past. Okay. Leading up to the 19th century, we wanted to include them in chronological glorious past order in order to tell stories. So we have designers, 2 different illustrations. Although, just to be clear, shout out to Belgium. That was kind of the entire party of the Europeans. It's not like the Spanish and Portuguese were unique in their colonial glory, but we do have some of the images depicting the glorious past of colonization, of course, in all of its glory. Where are the blankets? Okay. Or is it timeline? It's supposed to be a timeline, a visual timeline of Spanish history top, and the visual timelines of Portuguese history bottom. Okay, so are these the? Is this the Reconquista? Looks like, is this the construction of a mission? And this is the exploration, the Conquistador. We see the Conquistador's helmet. And we see kind of maybe some later age stuff. We see cannons. And then Portugal, I'm not going to know quite as well because it is smaller. Is any one of these visiting Japan? I remember when Portugal fought a dragon in history. I was there. But okay. The eagle eye may have noticed that in some of the text and some of the texts and images above were either Portuguese or Spanish. That is not a mistake. For Iberian Twilight, we are making 2 maps. Well, more like 1.5 maps in all honesty. While the original we had thought to combine both countries' timeline illustrations in one map, it became impossible to decide which language to use for the map text. So why not make 2 maps text for greater immersion? Practically, what this means is that both Spanish and Portuguese maps will share the same visual aesthetics, and the difference in the time is that in the timeline and the illustrations at the bottom of the map text will be completely in Spanish or Portuguese. Now, keep in mind there is dynamic that you can use, which is going to give you whichever art of the nation you're playing. So we do see French from Awaken the People, Voice of the People, National Awakening. I can't remember anymore. We see, but yeah, we see some of these for each of these, or like all the flavor packs having their own maps, and these maps do apply when you use dynamic, when you're playing with the nation that you have selected. So you will use the Maharaja one when you play with India. I think dynamic also just uses the most recent one if you don't have a specific flavor of country. Players can either use dynamic or manually choose the Glory of Spain or Glory of Portugal map, and we see that there will be slight variances in 2 languages we do not know very well, but to be fair, we don't know Portuguese better than we know Spanish, which is to say we know Portuguese less well, but we don't know it better as well. Event illustrations. These are really cool. Was super excited to see these. We might have our starting... We might have to update our starting soon kind of thing that we have on stream, and I honestly super like this industrial one a lot. But let's read the text first here. There are several themes in Iberian Twilight and its content that we had to convey in event illustrations. It should come as no surprise that an empire in decline, the shade, bang bang, shots fired, is a key theme that encompasses other themes like conflict between conservatives and modernizers, or the divide between different social classes. Other themes include colonization and human and resource exploitation. Don't you mean glorious past? I thought you meant glorious past here. Okay, the Spain of losing the crown, as oh, it's on the ground. Love it. Quite a nice art. What they do is they try and have they pick like themes that they want. They've talked about this, I think, in the Austrian one. They talked about this a bit. Is that they have images that fit a whole bunch of themes, and they try not to create new images for themes that have already happened. In this one, we have losing a crown. And then they, have a new kind of a larger library of which to use images from for the entire, concept of losing a crown. But the losing a crown picture is in the style of Iberia, right? Or Spain or Castile or Portugal or both, because we're losing a lot of crowns here. And so what they now have is added to their library this image for just losing a crown generic that happens to be in the Spanish and Portuguese style. And in this way, they get to add flavor and events and this type of stuff, and also add to their growing library of 2D visuals from which they have to draw for all events. And so if there's a losing of a crown as a different nation, you might see this event or this type of thing. We have the lives of miners are not quite as comfortable as the life of a person under the umbrella. Now, this is the previous industrial image we have is inside of a factory, and this one is inside of a mine. And I'm not sure what we have for mining images right now, but this is a very cool update. Violence erupts in a concert hall. So we have the bourgeoisie getting a little unruly, but we'll blame it on the proletariat, of course. And then we will also have the sugar industry is working pretty well for some. is doing pretty well for some. A glorious past of the sugar industry. These children are, of course, running for their lives, and there's smoke on the horizon. Actually, that is smoke. We were joking about it being smoke on the horizon because the horrors of glorious pasts, but there is actually smoke on the horizon. And if you have read the previous Dev Diaries on art, you will know that with each batch, we try to identify gaps in our this is the thing I was trying to explain, and he's going to explain it better. We try to identify gaps in our event illustration library and find creative ways to fill them. One such gap was higher education or university scene. For owners of Iberian Twilight, you will now have another image that could represent universities or higher education related events. And if you take this higher education, you too will be able to read Dev Diaries without mispronouncing everything, except you won't, except you might. The truth hurts, and it's just us. But we do have this lecture hall, and he is pointing with his big stick. I hear that the better graduate degree you have, the bigger your stick gets. This is what I've heard. I've not observed it personally, because I do not have a graduate degree, which makes me, I used to joke that if I got my master's degree, I could be the least educated person in my family. The truth hurts. But we also get icons. The new building projects across the world have their own building icons, of course, and we do have. These are looking pretty nice. I do like the look of these for each of these unique buildings. A lot of unique buildings for Iberia then, huh? But we only saw one that had a really strong modifier, and that modifier was 5 legitimacy, and that's not really too insane. All your monuments are recognizable. Are they, though? Because we didn't recognize them. No, but one of them is especially Familia. Shout out to Familia. Prestige goods have become a staple in Victoria 3. That's not how prestige works. If they're a staple, they're in fact not prestigious. It is the scarcity that causes them to be prestiged. And so you will have to go back to the drawing board on that utterance. With every new DLC, the designers and artists add new prestige goods, of course capitalizing prestige goods because it is in fact a holiday. We do have what looks like sugar, some booze, of course the Cuban cigars, the Cubano, and we have more alcohol, and then board game. Wait, what? Caligula? Wait, what? Victorian era. Caligula was Rome, my guy. Iberia is famous for their alcohol. What is this for? We have Paradox Interactive Caligula game pieces. What is this? Is this some sort of Easter egg that they're spoiling for us here? If anyone knows, please let me know. I don't remember them talking about a company that would have a board game. Paradox Interactive or Paradox Studios initially started as a board game. Okay, anyways, Iberia sure is famous for their alcohol. Well, if the shoe fits, drink it. Sometimes we add new interest groups and ideologies as well. And if the icon for the new harvest condition, Earthquake, we do have a new thing for Earthquake, and we do have Carlist and Miguelist, and is that Illustrado or Illustrado? Certainly it's Illustrado. But there are several new icons and other features of law, such as the new power block, a central identity pillar, a new principle, but these have already been shown in previous Dev Diaries, and this Dev Diary is turning out longer than anticipated. Then who anticipated? Surely you don't mean us, because this has been the shortest Dev Diary in some time, but there is a surprise, is it? Achievements will be shown in a later Dev Diary as usual, and that's it from the 2D artists from Iberian Twilight. Also the 3D artists, you gotta give them a little bit of, gotta give them their, come on man. And with that, we must leave you. Okay, I hope you have enjoyed this short glimpse into the art of Iberian Twilight and the lives of those who strive to paint the world and drive the loud car outside of Victoria into a better, more horrifying and haunting kind of simulation of the social injustice of the period in which people were brutally exploited. I mean, glorious past. At least a more complex and nuanced image of suffering, people, struggle, process, and profit. Don't you mean glorious past? As always, we would love to hear your feedback on both the good and the bad, but they would prefer the good feedback. No, well, in theory, you like the bad feedback, but when you do this and you get the bad feedback, it makes you feel bad, but it's still useful. But Feels bad, man. And next Thursday, we will have the changelog and achievements before release, as then the normal patch notes when we release on the 11th. Starting from, make sure you put it at the start of the dev diaries. Starting from the 14th CET until 16th CET this Friday, the 28th, and next Friday, we will be starting our pre-release streams of Iberian Twilight, hosted by Martin and Hansi. Is that Lufthansa? And now I feel tricked yet again, because I was starting to think that was his name. Then for release, Martin and Lena will give you a whirlwind of a tour of all the content in Iberian in our release stream at 15:30 CET on the 11th. But that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, etc. Mostly, etc. And also, coming up, if you are paying full price for the game and you want to support the channel, a really good way to do that, or for the expansion, is to buy it off of the official Paradox store. If you buy it online and use code GENERALIST in all caps, that's GENERALIST, the word, in all caps, not GENERALIST in all caps, the phrase in one word, because that would be absurd. If you use GENERALIST in all caps, it will send 12% of the sale our way. It is a little inconvenient for you because they will email you the CD code, but this is a way to support the channel because it does send 12% our way, which I think I said. That doesn't make it 24% because I said it twice. But anyways, other than that, wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, but more importantly, a happy Thursday.